The shield generators hummed with a sound that made Council Leader Zirik's antenna twitch. That humming meant they were dying. 3 weeks ago, the generators sang with strong, steady power. Now they stuttered and whined like injured animals. Outside the shields, the Krell swarm waited like hungry shadows. Zirik stood in the command center of Thesara Prime, watching the holographic display with 4 of his 6 eyes. The other 2 eyes watched his people work at their stations. They moved quickly, their chitinous hands dancing over controls, but Zirik could see the fear in their movements. Everyone knew the truth. Everyone knew they were going to die. The Thessaran Confederation had existed for 2,000 years. 3 species of insectoid people had built a civilization based on trade, art, and exploration. Their ships were beautiful things made of silver and crystal, designed to carry goods between stars and study distant worlds. They had never needed weapons. They had never faced an enemy like the Krell. The Krell swarm had appeared 4 months ago at the edge of Thessaran space. At first, the Confederation thought they could negotiate. The Thessarans sent diplomatic ships with gifts and messages of peace. The Krell had consumed the ships and everyone aboard them. Then they came for the colonies. 12 colony worlds fell silent one after another. The Confederation sent their small defense fleet to investigate. Only 2 ships returned, both damaged beyond repair. The captains told horrifying stories before they died. The Krell were not interested in talking. They were interested in eating. They consumed metal, organic matter, energy, everything. They turned entire planets into empty rocks. Now the Krell surrounded Thesara Prime, the heart of the Confederation. 700 Krell ships formed a sphere around the planet. They attacked the shields constantly, wearing them down bit by bit. The Thessaran defense fleet had fought bravely. All 63 ships were now debris floating in orbit. Council Leader, said military advisor Threxus, approaching with 3 of his legs limping from an injury. Food reserves will last 4 more days. Water for 6. The shields will fail in approximately 37 hours. Zirik touched his antenna to Threxus's in a gesture of comfort. Thank you for your honesty, old friend. Have the evacuation ships been prepared? Yes, Council Leader. But the Krell will destroy them the moment they leave the shield perimeter. We cannot save anyone. Zirik had known this answer. Still, hearing it out loud made his breathing tubes constrict. Below them, in the cities of Thesara Prime, 8 billion people continued their lives. Parents fed children. Artists created beauty. Teachers educated the young, all of them pretending they had a future. Then we will send the message, Zirik said quietly. Threxus's antenna drooped. The emergency distress signal? Council Leader, no one will answer. The Galactic Council species have all fled this sector. We are alone. Perhaps, Zirik agreed. But we must try. If we are to be the last Thessarans, let our final act be hope, not surrender. Threxus gave the gesture of compliance and moved to the communication station. The operators there worked quickly, their hands shaking. They configured the emergency beacon to broadcast on all known frequencies, in all known languages. The message was simple. This is Thesara Prime. We are under attack by the Krell swarm. Our defenses are failing. Please help, please, anyone. The beacon activated, sending its desperate plea into the darkness of space. It would travel at faster than light speeds, bouncing off relay stations, reaching across hundreds of light years. Maybe someone would hear it. Probably no one would care. Zirik returned to his private chamber after the message was sent. He sat at his desk and activated a recording device. If the Confederation was to die, he would leave messages for the colony worlds that might survive. He spoke about duty and sacrifice. He spoke about love for their people. He told them to remember Thesara Prime not as a tomb, but as a home that fought until the end. Outside, the Krell continued their patient attack. The shields flickered. The generators screamed. Time was running out. On the command center's main display, the countdown showed 36 hours and 17 minutes until shield failure. Every Thessaran in the room knew what would happen then. The Krell would descend like a plague. They would consume the cities, the people, the very atmosphere. In less than a week, Thesara Prime would be an empty ball of rock. Young Communications Officer Pyrrhic suddenly stood up from her station, her antenna rigid with attention. Council Leader, the beacon, someone is responding. Zirik's hearts, both of them, began beating faster. He rushed to the communication station, moving faster than his old body had moved in years. What, who? Where are they? Pyrrhic's hands flew over her controls, her voice shaking with emotion. The signal came from the edge of explored space. The language matrix is translating now. They say they are Council leader. They identify themselves as human, from a planet called Earth. The command center went silent. Zurich felt ice form in his chest. Every eye in the room stared at the communications display. Threxus spoke, his voice barely a whisper. Humans, the Deathworlders. Zurich had heard stories. Every civilized species had heard stories about Earth. A Class 12 death world where everything tried to kill you. Where gravity crushed your bones and weather could freeze or burn you in hours. Where predators hunted in packs and diseases evolved faster than medicine. Most species considered Earth a nightmare planet. They considered humans dangerous, unpredictable, violent. What does the message say? Zurich asked, his voice steady despite his fear. Pyrrhic read the translated message aloud. We received your distress call. The 5th Fleet is en route to your position. Estimated arrival, 96 hours, hold on. We are coming. Zurich did not know whether to feel hope or terror. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Valiant, studying the holographic map of Thessaran space. Red markers showed Krell positions. A single blue dot marked Thessera Prime, surrounded by enemies. The tactical situation looked impossible. Good. Humans specialized in impossible. Navigation. Confirm our jump coordinates, Chen said calmly. Coordinates confirmed, Admiral, replied Lieutenant Okonkwo. All 20 ships of the 5th Fleet report ready for slipspace jump. Chen nodded. Behind her, the bridge crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. No panic, no hesitation. They had trained for situations like this. Earth had spent centuries fighting itself before reaching the stars. Humanity had learned warfare in the harshest school imaginable, their own home planet. Admiral, incoming transmission from Galactic Council Station 12, announced Communications Officer Park. Put it through, Chen said. The holographic display shifted, showing a Vendari diplomat. The Vendari looked like a large jellyfish with too many tentacles. Its skin flashed colors that the translator interpreted as distress. Admiral Chen, this is Ambassador Velix. We must protest your decision to intervene in the Thessaran situation. The Krell swarm is extremely dangerous. You will be sailing your fleet to certain destruction. Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Ambassador, we received a distress call. We're responding. That's what decent people do. The Vendari's colors shifted to something the translator called exasperation. You do not understand, Admiral. The Krell have destroyed every fleet sent against them. They outnumber you greatly, and frankly, many species in the Council are concerned about human military intervention. Your people are from a Class 12 death world. You are unpredictable, aggressive. You solve problems with violence. We solve problems, period. Chen corrected. The Thessarans asked for help. We're giving it. Now, if you'll excuse me, Ambassador, we have a rescue mission to complete. She cut the transmission without waiting for a response. The Vendari would file a protest. The Galactic Council would hold meetings and debates. Meanwhile, 8 billion Thessarans would die if someone didn't act. All ships report ready. Admiral, Okonkwo said. Take us in, Chen ordered. The Valiant shuddered as its slipspace drive activated. Reality bent around the ship, and suddenly they were moving faster than light, crossing distances that would take years in normal space. The 20 ships of the 5th Fleet traveled together, maintaining perfect formation even as they rode the currents of folded space. Chen used the travel time to review what they knew about humans versus the rest of the galaxy. The differences were stark and disturbing to most species. Most galactic civilizations evolved on gentle worlds. Class 1 through 3 planets had low gravity, mild weather, and few dangerous predators. The species that evolved there developed civilization easily. They had time to think, to create art, to build ships and explore the stars. Their bodies were fragile because they never needed to be tough. Earth was different. Earth was hell. Gravity on Earth was 3 times stronger than most civilized worlds. Humans evolved bones like steel and muscles that never quit. Earth's weather swung from burning deserts to frozen tundras. Humans learned to survive anywhere. Earth's predators hunted in packs, used strategy, killed efficiently. Humans became the apex predator by being more ruthless than anything else on the planet. Then humans had fought each other for 10,000 years. Wars over territory, resources, beliefs, and pride. Humanity had refined warfare into a science, They built weapons that could crack planets. They developed tactics that other species considered insane or suicidal. The Galactic Council had discovered Earth 20 years ago. First contact had been careful, cautious, and honestly terrifying for the aliens. They found a species that could bench press weight that would crush a Vendari, that could eat foods toxic to most life forms, that could survive radiation doses that would kill other species, that considered fun activities to be things like jumping out of aircraft or climbing mountains. The Council had debated whether to even contact Earth. Some argued humans were too dangerous. Others said humanity deserved a chance. Eventually, limited contact was established. Humans were given access to slip space technology and basic galactic knowledge. In exchange, Earth agreed to respect Council space and not expand aggressively. But no one had asked humans to fight in a war. No one wanted to see what Deathworlders could do when they stopped being peaceful. "Admiral, we're approaching Thessaran space," Okonkwo announced. "Estimated arrival at Thessara Prime in 30 minutes. Chen activated the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. We're going into a combat situation against an enemy that outnumbers us significantly. Intel says the Krell fight using swarm tactics in overwhelming numbers. They expect their enemies to break and run. We're not going to break. We're not going to run. We're going to show them what humans do when someone asks for help." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Remember your training. Watch your spacing. Cover your wingmates. And remember that 8 billion people are counting on us. Chen out." The fleet dropped out of slip space at the edge of the Thessaran system. Immediately, sensors began screaming with warnings. 700 Krell ships detected. Weapons charging. They were moving to intercept. On the Thessaran homeworld, Zhirek watched his sensors with growing dread. His military computers analyzed the human ships and displayed the results. 20 human vessels against 700 Krell. The computer calculated their survival chances at 0.03%. "They came to die with us," Threxus said, quietly. But Zhirek noticed something strange. The human ships were not fleeing. They were not trying to negotiate. They were accelerating directly toward the Krell formation, positioning themselves between the swarm and Thessara Prime. The lead human ship broadcast a message on all frequencies. Admiral Chen's voice was calm and clear. "Krell swarm, you are attacking a civilization under the protection of the Terran Union. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The Krell did not withdraw. The Krell never withdrew. They attacked, and the humans showed the galaxy what Deathworlders could do. The Krell swarm moved like a living thing. 700 ships flowed through space in coordinated waves, surrounding their prey from all angles. It was the same pattern that had destroyed every fleet that faced them. The hive mind controlled each ship perfectly, responding to threats instantly, exploiting every weakness. The Krell had never met humans before. They expected the tiny fleet to scatter in panic like all the others. Instead, the human ships moved into a formation the Thessarans had never seen. They formed a wall, 20 ships side by side, directly between the Krell and Thessara Prime. "Admiral, sensors show 300 Krell ships moving to flank us from above and below," reported Tactical Officer Hayes. "Another 200 forming a frontal assault wave. The remaining ships are maintaining the blockade of Thessara Prime." "Let them come," Chen said calmly. "All ships activate kinetic barriers and load nuclear torpedoes. Prepare to execute Formation Delta on my mark." On Thessara Prime, Zhirek watched his sensors with mounting confusion. Nuclear torpedoes? The galaxy had abandoned such primitive weapons centuries ago. Energy weapons were cleaner, more efficient, easier to control. Nuclear weapons were brutal, radioactive, and unpredictable. "Council leader, the humans are using technology from their pre-space era," Threxus said, his voice uncertain. "These weapons are considered barbaric by Council standards." "The Council is not here," Zhirek replied quietly. "The humans are." The Krell front wave crashed into the human formation like a tidal surge. 200 ships, each bristling with bioorganic weapons that could melt through shields and tear apart hulls. They fired simultaneously, enough firepower to vaporize a moon. The human ships did not dodge. Their shields flared bright blue as they absorbed the impact. Alarms screamed on every human bridge as shield strength dropped to dangerous levels. But the shields held. "Barely. Return fire," Chen ordered. "All weapons free." The human ships unleashed hell. Railguns fired solid slugs of depleted uranium at a fraction of light speed. No shields, no energy signatures to detect. Just metal moving so fast it punched through Krell ships like paper. Missile tubes opened and launched nuclear torpedoes, dozens of them streaking toward the Krell formation. Each warhead carried enough explosive power to destroy a city. The Krell had advanced shields designed to deflect energy weapons. They had armor that could heal itself. They had countermeasures against smart missiles and electronic warfare. But their technology had no good defense against a chunk of metal moving at relativistic speeds or a nuclear explosion in close proximity. The railgun slugs tore through 6 Krell ships in the first volley. The nuclear torpedoes detonated in the middle of the Krell formation, and space lit up with miniature suns. 17 more Krell ships simply ceased to exist, vaporized in nuclear fire. Another 30 were damaged, their organic hulls burned and broken. Shirik's breathing tubes stopped working for a moment. In 30 seconds, the humans had destroyed more Krell ships than the entire Thessaran defense fleet had managed in 3 weeks. But the Krell did not panic. The hive mind did not feel fear. The swarm adapted instantly, spreading out to minimize damage from area weapons. The ships above and below the human formation dove in, attacking from angles where the humans could not bring all their weapons to bear. Flanking ships are in attack range, Hayes announced. Shields at 40% and dropping fast. Rotate formation Delta, Chen ordered. Ships 1 through 10 pitch 90 degrees up. Ships 11 through 20 pitch 90 degrees down. Execute now! The human fleet split perfectly, half the ships rotating to face the upper attack, half facing the lower attack. The Thessaran sensors showed impossible precision in the maneuver. Most species would have collided trying such a dangerous formation change in the middle of combat. The humans fired again. More railgun slugs, more nuclear torpedoes, more Krell ships dying in fire and radiation. But the Krell were learning. They began random evasive maneuvers, making themselves harder to hit. They focused fire on individual human ships trying to overwhelm one target at a time. The destroyer Indomitable took concentrated fire from 30 Krell ships. Its shields collapsed. Hull armor began to melt. Indomitable is critical, Hayes reported. Captain Morrison is requesting permission to evacuate his crew. Chen watched the tactical display. The Indomitable was dying, but it was positioned perfectly between a cluster of Krell ships and the rest of the human fleet. An idea formed in her mind, cold and tactical. Negative on evacuation, Chen said. Captain Morrison, I need a volunteer action. Can your ship still maneuver? There was a pause. Then Morrison's voice came through, calm despite the hell his ship was experiencing. Engines are functional, Admiral. What do you need? I need you to ram the Krell carrier at coordinates Delta 59er. Full speed. Set your reactor to overload on impact. Another pause. Longer this time. Everyone on the bridge knew what Chen was asking. She was ordering Morrison and his crew to die. Understood, Admiral, Morrison finally said. It's been an honor serving with you. Indomitable out. Chen felt the weight of command like a physical thing pressing on her shoulders. She had just ordered 400 people to their deaths. But she could not let that stop her. Could not let emotion override tactics. 8 billion Thessarans needed her to be cold and efficient. The Indomitable changed course, accelerating directly toward the massive Krell carrier. The carrier tried to move, but the large ship was slow. Too slow. Krell weapons tore at the Indomitable as it charged forward. The destroyer's hull was shredded, bleeding air and fire. But its engines still worked. Its reactor still burned. Captain Morrison's voice came over the open channel one last time. All crew to escape pods. Launch now. That's an order. The Indomitable slammed into the Krell carrier at full speed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the destroyer's reactor went critical. The explosion was visible from Thessara Prime's surface, a new sun being born in orbit. When the light faded, both ships were gone. So were 5 Krell ships that had been too close to the carrier. Zurich stared at his display, his antenna trembling. The humans had sacrificed 1 ship and its crew to destroy 6 enemy vessels. It was ruthless. It was brutal. It was the most courageous thing he had ever witnessed. The remaining human ships pressed their attack with renewed fury. They moved through space like hunters, like predators who had tasted blood and wanted more. Railguns fired continuously. Nuclear torpedoes streaked through the darkness. Human ships absorbed damage that would have destroyed Thessaran vessels, and they kept fighting. The Krell swarm began to pull back, regrouping. They had not expected this. Had not expected prey that fought like predators. The hive mind was recalculating, adapting to this new threat. The humans had bought time, but the battle was far from over. The Krell regrouped quickly, their hive mind processing the battle data and forming new strategies. They had lost over 100 ships, but they still outnumbered the humans more than 30-1. The hive mind calculated that sustained pressure would eventually overwhelm the human defenses. It was simply a matter of resources and time. Admiral Chen studied her tactical display, watching the Krell formation reform. Her ships had taken damage. 3 destroyers were running on backup power. The cruiser Auckland had lost half its weapon systems. They had ammunition for maybe 2 more large engagements before they ran dry. The Krell could attack for days. "Admiral, the Krell are forming up for another assault," Hayes reported. "They're concentrating their forces. This time they're all coming at once," Chen smiled. It was not a happy smile. "Perfect. They're doing exactly what I hoped they would do." She activated the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. We're going to implement Protocol Xerxes. I know we've only run this in simulations, but the Krell are giving us the perfect setup. Navigation teams, plot your coordinates now. Weapons teams, prepare maximum firepower loads. We get one shot at this." Protocol Xerxes was a tactical plan so dangerous that most of Chen's fellow admirals had called it insane when she proposed it. It required perfect timing, perfect positioning, and a willingness to risk everything on a single gamble. In other words, it was a very human plan. "All ships acknowledge," Okonkwo reported. "Coordinates plotted and confirmed." "Good," Chen said. "Execute Phase 1. The human fleet suddenly broke formation. 9 ships peeled away from Thessera Prime, accelerating hard toward the edge of the system. They were running, fleeing, exactly what the Krell expected prey to do. On Thessera Prime, Zurich felt his heart sink. No, they cannot abandon us now. But Threxus was staring at his tactical display with his antenna rigid. "Council leader, look at their vectors. Those ships are not fleeing randomly. They are moving in a specific pattern, toward the asteroid belt." The Krell swarm saw prey running and reacted instantly. The hive mind redirected 400 ships to pursue and destroy the fleeing humans. Only the ships maintaining the blockade of Thessera Prime remained in orbit. It was the tactical decision any commander would make. Destroy the enemy fleet first, then finish off the defenseless planet. The 9 human ships raced toward the asteroid belt with 400 Krell ships in pursuit. The distance closed rapidly. The Krell opened fire and several human ships took damage. One destroyer lost its engines and began tumbling through space. The Krell swarmed it like predators, tearing it apart. "They're dying," Zurich whispered. "They sacrificed themselves for a few more hours." "Wait," Threxy said, pointing at the display. "The asteroid belt. Something is wrong. The asteroids were moving, not drifting naturally, but maneuvering with purpose. Active thrusters fired, adjusting positions. Weapons ports opened on surfaces that looked like rock, but were really camouflaged metal. 10 human warships emerged from hiding among the asteroids. They had been there the entire time, concealed and waiting. The cruisers Endeavor and Sentinel, 8 more destroyers, all of them fresh, fully armed and positioned perfectly behind the Krell formation. "Phase 2, Chen ordered calmly. The 9 fleeing human ships suddenly reversed course, bringing their weapons to bear on the Krell from the front. The 10 hidden ships opened fire from behind. The Krell swarm found itself caught in a perfect trap, bracketed between 2 human forces. Nuclear torpedoes streaked through space from both directions. Railgun fire created a crossfire that the Krell could not avoid. The asteroid belt itself came alive as the humans detonated charges they had planted, sending huge chunks of rock tumbling into the Krell formation at high speed. The hive mind tried to adapt, but it had made a critical error. It had committed too many ships to the pursuit. It had left itself exposed. The Krell ships tried to scatter, but there was nowhere to go. Everywhere they turned, human weapons found them. Chen watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. Target their command nodes. Intelligence identified 3 ships that are central to the hive mind's coordination. Designating targets Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, all ships focus fire. Every human ship adjusted its targeting. The 3 Krell command ships were larger than the others, positioned at key points in the formation. They coordinated the swarm's movements, transmitted the hive mind's orders. Destroy them and the Krell would lose cohesion. The human fleet fired everything they had at the 3 targets. Railgun slugs, nuclear torpedoes, conventional missiles. even the laser systems that humanity rarely used because they preferred kinetic weapons. The combined firepower was overwhelming. The first command ship tried to protect itself with other vessels, using smaller Krell ships as shields. The humans simply fired through the shields, accepting collateral damage. The command ship's defenses collapsed, and a nuclear torpedo detonated inside its hull. It broke apart like an egg. The second command ship attempted to flee, accelerating away from the battle. The human cruiser Sentinel pursued, pushing its engines beyond safe limits. When it got within range, the Sentinel fired its main railgun repeatedly, pounding the command ship until it split open. The third command ship was protected by 50 Krell vessels forming a defensive sphere around it. Chen made a decision that would haunt her dreams later. All ships, salvo fire. Nuclear pattern Omega. Authorization Chen 99 read. Pattern Omega meant firing every nuclear warhead they had left in a single coordinated strike. It would leave the human fleet nearly out of ammunition, but it would also create a nuclear firestorm that nothing could survive. 20 human ships launched their remaining nuclear torpedoes simultaneously. Over 300 warheads streaked toward the defensive formation. The Krell tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. The torpedoes detonated almost simultaneously, creating overlapping fireballs that merged into a single sphere of nuclear fusion. When the explosions faded, the third command ship and its 50 defenders were simply gone, vaporized, reduced to atoms. The effect on the Krell swarm was immediate and catastrophic. Without the command nodes coordinating their actions, the hive mind fragmented. Individual ships began acting on their own without central direction. Some attacked randomly, some fled. Some simply stopped moving as if confused about what to do. Now, Chen ordered, all ships pursuit mode. Do not let them regroup. The human fleet, now reunited into a single formation, tore through the confused Krell like wolves among sheep. The humans had learned something that other species had not. The Krell swarm was strong when coordinated but weak when broken apart. Attack the command structure and the swarm fell apart. The remaining Krell ships near Thesara Prime detected the destruction of their command nodes and made a logical decision. They ran. 300 Krell vessels broke orbit and fled toward the edge of the system, desperately trying to escape the humans. Chen considered pursuit, but decided against it. Her ships were damaged, low on ammunition, and running on fumes. They had won the immediate battle. Chasing the survivors would be satisfying but tactically foolish. Stand down from combat alert, she ordered. Damage control teams begin repairs. Medical teams prepare to receive wounded, and someone contact Thesara Prime. Tell them they're safe now. On the planet below, Zurich collapsed into his command chair, his legs unable to support him anymore. Around him, the command center erupted in sounds of joy and disbelief. His people were crying, laughing, hugging each other. They had been hours from death, and now they lived. Threxus approached, his voice shaking. Council leader, the humans are requesting permission to establish orbit and begin relief operations. Zurich looked at the display, at the human ships that had saved his entire civilization. Ships crewed by Deathworlders, by people from a planet that created the toughest, most dangerous species in the galaxy, and those people had come across light years of space to save strangers. Permission granted, Zurich said softly. And prepare the council chambers. I think we need to officially thank our saviors. The human relief effort began within hours of the battle's end. Admiral Chen authorized 6 ships to establish orbit around Thesara Prime, while the rest of the fleet maintained a defensive perimeter. The humans moved with the same efficiency they had shown in combat. But now that efficiency was directed toward helping, rather than destroying, medical shuttles descended to the surface, carrying doctors and supplies. The Thesserans had initially worried about biological compatibility, but human medicine was surprisingly adaptable. Humans had experience treating diverse biology, because Earth itself contained millions of different species. If human doctors could treat organisms ranging from bacteria to blue whales, they could figure out insectoid aliens. Engineer teams helped repair the shield generators, working alongside Thesseran technicians. The humans brought portable power generators from their ships, massive things that could run a small city. They simply gave them to the Thesserans, no payment requested, no strings attached. Food was more complicated. Human food was toxic to most Thesserans and vice versa, but the human supply ships carried protein synthesizers that could create basic nutrients compatible with Thesseran biology. It was bland, tasteless food, but it would keep people alive until regular supply lines could be re-established. Zurich stood on a landing platform in the capital city, watching another human shuttle arrive. His aide, a young Thessaran named Caleb, stood beside him, antenna twitching nervously. "Council leader, are you certain about meeting with the human admiral personally? Perhaps we should maintain a more formal distance until we understand them better." "They saved 8 billion lives," Zurich replied. "The least I can do is look them in the eyes and say thank you." The shuttle landed with remarkable gentleness for something so large and heavily armored. The main hatch opened and Admiral Chen descended the ramp, flanked by 2 human Marines in full armor. Zurich had to force himself not to step back. The humans were huge compared to Thessarans, easily twice the height and several times the mass. The Marines looked like they could tear apart a building with their bare hands. But Chen's face showed kindness. She smiled as she approached, and while Thessarans did not have the same facial expressions, Zurich had studied human body language. That smile was genuine. "Council Leader Zurich," Chen said, her translator device rendering her words in Thessaran. "It's an honor to meet you." "Admiral Chen," Zurich replied, performing the Thessaran gesture of deep respect. "There are not enough words in any language to thank you for what you have done. You came when no one else would. You fought when the odds were impossible. You saved us." Chen looked uncomfortable with the praise. "We did what anyone should do. You called for help. We answered. But you did more than answer," Zurich said. "My military advisor calculated your survival probability at nearly 0%. You came anyway. You lost ships and crew members. Why? Why would you sacrifice so much for strangers?" Chen was quiet for a moment, considering her words. "On Earth, we have a concept called empathy. It means feeling what others feel, understanding their pain. When we heard your distress call, we didn't hear aliens from a distant world. We heard people who were afraid, who were dying, who needed help. How could we not come?" "But the cost," Zurich insisted. "One of your ships was destroyed." "How many people died?" "The Indomitable had 400 crew," Chen said, and Zurich could hear the weight in her voice. "They evacuated most of them before the final attack. 63 chose to stay with Captain Morrison to ensure the ramming attack succeeded. They were volunteers. Heroes. We will never forget them." Zurich felt moisture forming in his sensory organs, the Thessaran equivalent of tears. "We will remember them too. Every Thessaran will know the names of those who died for us." Chen nodded. "Thank you. That would mean a lot to their families." Over the following days, the relationship between humans and Thessarans grew stronger. Human engineers worked 12-hour shifts helping rebuild damaged infrastructure. Human medical teams treated thousands of wounded Thessarans. Human supply ships arrived from Earth bringing food, medicine, and construction materials. The Thessarans were amazed by human generosity. Most galactic species operated on strict trade principles. You gave exactly what you received, no more, no less. The humans just gave. They asked for nothing in return. Threxus tried to explain it to Zurich one evening as they watched human work crews repairing a damaged hospital. "They are very strange, these humans. Our analysts have been studying their culture, their history. They are contradictions. They fought brutal wars among themselves for thousands of years. They created weapons that could destroy their entire planet. They nearly made themselves extinct several times. Yet they crossed the galaxy to save us," Zurich observed. "Exactly," Threxus agreed. "They are capable of terrible violence but also incredible compassion. They are killers who choose to be healers. They are warriors who prefer peace. I think that is what makes them truly dangerous. Not their weapons or their strength, but their choice." 1 week after the battle, the Galactic Council sent an official delegation to Thessara Prime. Ambassador Velix the Vendari arrived with a fleet of diplomatic ships and a lot of questions. Zurich hosted a meeting in the restored council chambers, with Admiral Chen present at his request. "The council acknowledges the human intervention and its successful outcome," Velix said, his colors shifting to indicate careful diplomacy. "However, there are concerns about human military capabilities and intentions. The use of nuclear weapons, ramming attacks, and other aggressive tactics has alarmed many species. The Council wishes to understand whether Earth intends to become a military power in this region of space." Before Chen could respond, Zurich spoke. "Ambassador Velix, with respect, the Thessaran Confederation does not share the Council's concerns. The humans used aggressive tactics because they were fighting an aggressive enemy. They used nuclear weapons because those weapons worked. They sacrificed their own ships and crew because they valued our lives above their own safety. The Council had months to respond to the Krell threat. You did nothing. The humans had days and they saved us. Felix's colors shifted to surprise. Council leader, surely you understand our caution. The humans are from a Class 12 death world. They are fundamentally different from civilized species. Then perhaps civilization needs a new definition, Zhirek replied firmly. I have seen what civilized species do when faced with difficult choices. They debate. They form committees. They worry about protocols and profits. I have seen what humans do. They act, they sacrifice, they care about strangers. If that is not civilized behavior, then the word has lost its meaning. Chen cleared her throat. Ambassador, Earth has no territorial ambitions in this region. We came because people needed help. We will leave when we are no longer needed. However, the Thessaran Confederation has requested a mutual defense pact. Earth is considering it seriously. We will not abandon our friends. The delegation left shortly after, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. But Zhirek knew the galaxy would never be the same. The humans had demonstrated something that had been missing from galactic civilization for a long time. Courage backed by compassion. Strength tempered by mercy. 2 months after the battle, Chen prepared to return to Earth with most of the fleet. 3 human ships would remain in Thessaran space, a permanent presence and a deterrent to future threats. Zhirek met with her one final time in the council chambers. You are leaving, Zhirek said. It was not a question. My job here is done, Chen replied. Your shields are repaired, your defense is strengthened. You have food and medicine. You're going to be okay. Will we see you again? Chen smiled. Oh, definitely. Earth and Thessara Prime are going to be strong allies. Plus, I'm pretty sure my government is going to want a diplomatic posting here. They'll probably send someone less military and more political next time. I hope they send someone like you, Zhirek said. Someone who understands that strength without compassion is cruelty, but compassion without strength is useless. That's very wise, Chen said. Mind if I quote you? They shared a moment of understanding, 2 leaders who had faced the darkness together and survived. Then Chen departed, her shuttle rising into the sky toward her waiting fleet. Zhirek watched from his window as the human ships prepared to leave. All across the Thessara Prime, his people were stopping their work to watch too. In the cities, in the towns, in the rebuilt villages, Thessarans looked up at the sky and watched the ships that had saved them. The human fleet jumped to slip space, disappearing in flashes of light. But their impact remained. The Thessaran Confederation would rebuild, would grow strong again. They would remember the lesson the humans had taught them, that the strongest weapon is not found in ships or bombs, but in the choice to help those who cannot help themselves. And across the galaxy, other species watched and learned. The Deathworlders from Earth had shown what they could do in war, but more importantly, they had shown what they would do in peace. The universe would never underestimate humanity again, but more than that, it would never forget that when 8 billion people cried out for help in their darkest hour, it was the humans who answered.